Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the Pavo20 Pro. And you might be thinking that this is a successor, Pavo 20 or the Pavo Pico, but I think it's kind of just a different version. And there may be reasons why you still want one of the others, but today we're going to focus on the Pavo20 Pro. One of the changes is a larger prop, and it's a tri-bladed prop this time. It's the Gym Fan 2.2-inch tri-bladed prop, and powering those props are 1104 7200 kV Lava branded motors. The flight controller is an F405. It is a 2 to 3S compatible flight controller. Do note it does not have a USB port. It's just got a connector down here. So you do need, which it does come with, but you need to keep track of this for the life of the quad, this little special dongle. But it's a 20 amp, 25 amp peak flight controller. Very difficult to see, but that wiring harness down in there, that's so you can connect some LED lights, just like with the previous versions, or the other versions, whatever you're going to call this. Power connector is still an XT30. The mold is now a little bit different. I would call this a lot more substantial, and it's got better holes for our short antennas, which this kit, if you order the DJI version, does come with the shortened antennas. I do think it's also more hardy, so if you do happen to crash it, it will be more robust, and it still has the dampening and brass fittings up in the top, just like the previous version. A little bit of a side-by-side there, so you can take a fresh look at them. The Pavo20 Pro weighs 107.25 grams. I tested these 3 batteries for flight time and also used them in aggressive more flights. Obviously, I have more batteries than this. And I think really you just want to go with the Lava 550. But for informational purposes, if you have the GNB 663S battery, it weighs 156.5 grams. The Lava 550 brings it up to 150 grams, or just about. This Cotter 533S battery brings it to 150 grams. So these batteries weigh really close to the same, but my flight times on them were dramatically different. But this is almost brand new, and this one is far from brand new. So yeah, I would still go with this battery. The single carbon fiber plate is 2.25 millimeters thick, and motor post to motor post, I'd say it's about 93 or 94 millimeters. It does come with an accessory kit. I believe this bracket is so that you can use the Walksnail VTX inside here, the carbon fiber bracket back here. And then we also have some extra screws that you'll need for mounting this particular harness thing down to the carbon fiber, as well as some repair kits. This sample was sent from Review, and they did include this cob or LED light. They didn't label it here, just like you've had in the past. I already showed you the wiring harness, but I'm not certain if you get this or not, so check the link in the video description to check everything it's included with this particular one to see if you get this or not, because I'm not sure this comes with it or if it's an extra purchase. Of course, in a package, you get the specialized dongle and some extra props. And yeah, I got some more props, but I'm pretty certain that they don't include this many in the retail package. And last but not least in the box, just a support card, no stickers. Okay, selfishly, we are going to start off with my preferred flight style. We will do samples of the slower flight style, but we're going to go ahead and jump right into, I just call it my fun flight style. I really don't like to categorize everything. You might call it cruisy, you might call it freestyle, you might call it racy cruisy, you might call it freestyle cruisy, or any other creative name that comes to mind. This is how I like to fly in the backyard. This is how I like to have fun, kind of whizzing around. You might even call it close proximity. It just kind of varies. It depends on your perspective or opinion. I'm good with anything you might use to describe my flight style. You can even call it bad. It's all right with me. I don't get offended easily. So this is on the 550 Lava battery, and I really think that one of the things that Betafpv has done is they've stepped up their battery game. For quite a long time, Betafpv batteries were not the batteries to use. I don't know who was making them for them, because Betafpv, my understanding is there's really only 3 manufacturers of our LiPos, and Betafpv is not one of them. So they're getting them from somebody and then putting their label on them. That's pretty much what all our FPV companies are doing. It's kind of my understanding from the people that have that sort of knowledge and background information. This isn't my preferred flight that I wanted to show you, but unfortunately, because I missed that chimney dive right there, but the flight I wanted to show you, I hit that thing really nicely twice, but I didn't have an SD card into my goggles. I couldn't show you this goggle view. I like to show you the goggle view because this is unfiltered as far as the image stabilization that Rocksteady provides in the DJI 03. It also gives you all the Betaflight statistical flight information, which I think is important for you to see. You can see what the amp draws are. You can see what my throttle values are. You can see what the link quality and you know, the battery draw. You can look at all this stuff along with the time and what I'm doing, and this is something that I've done for years. So I think outside of just the modification that they've gone with, I do like the fact that it has tri-bladed props. One of my concerns with these tri-bladed props is there's no opportunity to use screws. So if by chance you slip a shaft on your motors, or it otherwise doesn't, you know, spin normally, you can't screw it to, you can't screw the prop, that is, to the motor bell and then continue to fly it. You're kind of done if the shaft is slipping. Also, you may find with crashing that you need to just replace the props. Even though they look fine, they might be slipping, especially on aggressive throttle moves. So that is one difference. I do think the props are pretty light compared to a traditional tri-bladed prop that is 2 inches or more. So I think that's one of the benefits of it, because you do get some pretty good flight times. I think they said that they get 6 to 7 minutes. Of course, that's very cruisy flight times. We're not going to see that in the faster flight times, but we do get around that. I think 7 minutes is a little optimistic, but we do get around 6 minutes on the Lava 550 battery. I did fly the 530 and I got really short flight times. Let me look at my notes over here real quick before we get all the way to the end of the flight. 530, I only got 2 minutes and 20 seconds. 550, I'll get 3 minutes and 20 seconds this flight, or about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And on the 660, I got the same. So it really didn't make sense to continue to, and I tested several of my 660s. I think I had 6 of them. And I've only got 4 of the Betafpv Lava 550 batteries. So I tested them out, and it's just not worth flying the extra weight, I don't think. But the flight has ended. You can see there, 3:49, 3 minutes and 21 seconds on this particular flight. But didn't quite nail my voltage there. I'd like to be at 3.5 volts. Okay, this is a windy, slow flight sample. I really think in the faster flight, you could still get some image stabilized view without the image stabilization, just to see how smooth the video is. This is very windy. Hopefully you saw it before I kind of righted. This is with the 660 battery, 10 to 15 mile an hour winds, and you could feel it. I really contemplated not using this because it is such high winds, but with the image stabilization, it does smooth things out quite a bit. But you're going to see that the wind is affecting my lines and my ability to go the places I want to under control, and that's not a knock against this product. That's just how things are when it's windy around you. You know, normally I do have these sorts of winds, but on this particular day, I remember thinking I can really feel it more than when the weather services say it's 10 mile an hour winds. I really felt like this was actually getting closer to 15 to 20 or 17 to 20 mile an hour winds that I could actually feel sitting there right next to the house amongst all the wind protection in the fence of the house, the trees, the vegetation, whatnot. So this is probably a little bit of a windier feel than I would normally say 10 to 15 mile an hour winds do in my area. So it's something to keep in mind. Flight audio that's coming from in this video is not from the DJI-03. I get that question a ton. I have a feeling I'm going to have to make a standalone video to describe this, just because I'm getting that question so frequently. It's probably an error on my part that I have not made a video about that. So I use a secondary camera. It's sitting there on the table in front of me, you know, within, so say about arm's reach, whether I'm flying inside or outside. That camera sits there, and then I use that footage or that audio from that camera and I sync it to the flight footage, so you get an idea of how these things sound. And I think it brings the flight footage alive a little bit as well. But this flight goes on and on. Our flight times, I should report those. On the slower, this sort of flight style, on the 530, I got about 3 minutes and 45 seconds. On the 550, I got anywhere from 5:45 to about 6:10. So Betafpv, I think, was saying they could get between 6 and 7 minutes. I really wasn't getting anything more than about 6:15 for the most part. And with the 660 battery, I was only getting 5 minutes and 45 seconds, thereabouts. So I decided not to continue to go up in size. I really think you probably, whether you want to do a cruisy style, flat style, or you want to do a more aggressive style, I think the battery and the battery size to fly this with is probably going to be at least the 550 from Betafpv, or a very similar battery. That's, for this quad, I think it's a really good match. This is a different day, but I wanted to show you this just because Mr. Bunny came to visit. right off the bat, I just took off and I saw him at the corner of my left eye, and I thought I would circle around. We've got the bunnies love to eat our hostas, so we find them over near the cabana where that Japanese maple is. Often when I come out and I check on the pool or whatnot, they're over there. Yeah, the grass isn't doing very well. I have a feeling that I've either overwatered this year, or when the grass service came and they sprayed for, it's the late season spray, and I think it has to do with keeping the grass alive when it's super hot and dry. I have a feeling they came and sprayed, and then the sprinklers went off that afternoon, and it was a spray that required it to dry on, and I just washed it away. So that particular area does get very hot in the full sun days, and I think the grass got a little damaged over there. Hopefully it'll come back next year. I'm optimistic. But this is just another slow flight sample. On this particular day, the winds are a little bit less, 7 to 10 miles an hour, and I couldn't quite feel them quite as much, but I just wanted to throw this out at you as another opportunity for a sample. And of course, we've got some inside flying. I pretty much always do this. This is actually in the evening time, probably about 8:30 or something like that. If you look out the windows, you'll see it's not dark outside, but it's starting to get to sundown. I think the Weather Service might even call it dusk. Also, our 19-year-old will be heading back to college, so we've got his stuff being staged in the main room up front, or the formal dining room. I don't know what we call this space, where the cello and the music stuff goes on, kind of a front room. And it's a little bit messy up there, so I apologize for that, but that's just the scope of life right there. It's been really nice to have him around. I'll miss him. He's been super helpful. He's a good dude. He's pretty solid. He keeps to himself for the most part when I don't really need him for stuff. But yeah, it's time for him to go back to the college life and the 100% free choice. I think that's something he's really anxious to get back to, because he knows that we can't ask him to drive one or more of his sisters somewhere, or to go to the grocery store to get us something, or to stop and pick up a delivery, or he can't be asked to help with any family errands, because he'll be off at college. So I just wanted to give you an inside sample. I reduced the audio volume, the flight volume on this, just to make it palatable, so you can still hear it, but I reduced it because inside it presents way louder than it actually is, in my opinion. Okay, as far as differences, we can cover these relatively quickly. We already have hit them, but I wanted to describe them just a touch more. I think as far as durability goes, it's going to be about the same. Of course, this one's going to weigh more than this one because it's got bigger motors, bigger props. It's a bigger quad overall. But the materials that they're using continues to be, at least to my knowledge, the same. It's relatively flexible, but is it bigger? Yes, it is. Let me get my calipers out. So on the original one, 6.8, 6.7 is about millimeters. And on the Pro version here, it's at least 7.5 millimeters. So this is definitely thicker top to bottom. So that should bode well for its durability and the additional weight, which makes sense. Both have the same sort of flight controller. I think the ESC amp rating is different on the different ones. They both have what I would say is a deficiency. Now, on whoops like this, I could forgive having the connector be a USB and then having to have the dongle. But on larger quads, where you're carrying more weight, and so the half gram that you're saving isn't as critical, I really think that these need to have USB ports built into them. Maybe you're not of the same opinion. That's an opinion of mine, because I worry about losing this and then being able to buy one of these, or maybe you got the skills to make one. Maybe then it's not a concern, but I always worry about losing this sort of stuff, and people losing that sort of stuff, because that can be troublesome. By the way, the Express LRS are the versions that these are, and they did come in version 3.3.2, so I was able to bind them up quite easily. Although I did notice that, not with this one, but with this one, I couldn't connect to the Wi-Fi. It was just, the signal was too weak. My computer has both wired and Wi-Fi built into it, and I normally just use the Wi-Fi for just Express LRS stuff, but it wouldn't connect to it, and I was tinkering with the antenna and holding it up closer to the computer, doing what I could do, but I did notice that the Wi-Fi, while it was on, and I could pick it up with my phone, I could not pick it up with my desktop computer, and that was a difference. back to the other differences. Of course, we already covered the props and the motors are different. And the molding on this is different. One detail that I wanted to give you is if you're down in this lower position and if you have a really low flight camera angle, you can see the very edges of this in the corner of your video, the prop protection. So if you have this way down and you have it in this lower position, you can see this. But if you keep the same camera angle and you move it up to just that notch, so you move up this screw hole in the camera up to that hole in the mount, then you won't see these in your view. Now, if you have like negative camera angle, that's different. That seems like, I don't know. It seems curious anybody would try that. But if you have negative camera angle, you probably will see it. Now, so obviously when I was flying it more aggressively, which is what I did last, I used the bottom two. When you move it up, you can only use one screw on each side. Now, you might be thinking about moving this up even further, but it's kind of got a notch in here, and it didn't feel like the camera when you tried to like use the bottom screw hole in the camera and the top screw hole in the mount. It didn't feel like it sat very well up here. This has kind of got a curvature to it, and it didn't feel like the camera wanted to be up there and was actually giving me fits and getting the screw hole lined up. It kept sliding back down on me. So, you know, while you can probably do it, it's not, I don't think it's designed for this screw hole in the camera to be in that mount hole. Something to keep in mind. Obviously, I didn't do anything fancy with my cable. I just twisted it a few times, kind of stuffed it in here. You have this area here, which I would advise you to zip tie your MIPI cable to one of these two braces right up here, whichever one you care to do. You can run the traditional DJI antenna that it comes with. They have a mount point for that. These smaller antennas are going to decrease your weight just a bit, may increase your flight time, and maybe just right up your alley. It really depends on you. One thing I don't care for, again, on the back end, outside, not going to beat this up, but, you know, I'm not a fan of that. Let me know what you think of these connectors instead of USB ports down in the comment section below. Something else that I worry about is with the battery leads being soldered onto a flight controller. I'm always worried about battery ejections and getting pulled on. The only opportunity that we have to secure these really greatly seduces, that was ridiculous. We could take, and I don't know how well you can see this, make a wrinkle and then zip tie our cable up here to the carbon fiber, and it's going to really reduce this length. And with the batteries that I was flying and the way that I mount them, I don't think if I did that, I would get them connected. So that's, I guess you could make an extension if you wanted to be protective, you know, a little male-female XT30 connection that's, you know, an inch or something like that. You could do that. I did have one crash where I got, I hit the deck. I came in too low, what have you. And when I turtle moded out of there and I flied away, I could tell that my battery was no longer fully seated down here. So I actually just flew back in. And sure enough, the battery was shifted all the way forward and it was pulling on this battery lead off the top. Speaking of batteries, I should show you when you do fly these batteries that are bigger than the 550. So the 550s don't go hump down. When I say hump, I'm talking about this part right here. Sorry, out of frame, this part right here. Don't do that because I found that more oftentimes than not, my props would knock on that. Of course, you don't want that. So you go hump down, which means it doesn't sit great on a flat surface. So these work fine, obviously. It's made for those batteries. 530s seem to be about the same size. It's pretty snug in there. Again, you got to figure out which a way that your props aren't going to knock. If you put your battery further forward, then you're going to kind of clear that space a little bit. But if you get them down here, and by the time you tighten the battery down, you're pressing the battery down into this area, you can get some prop knocks. So just flick your props. Actually, you can see this one's kind of chewed up a little bit on that one too. But you know, give your props a spin. On the 660, it's flat out too wide for this. So when I was flying that, I sat it vertical like that, which means it sat at an angle on the table. It doesn't sit flat. Maybe if you put some rocks or pebbles underneath here, you can make it sit flat. But it's really designed around the 550. You could trim these tabs off the side with some side cutters or wire cutters, what have you, and to make this all kind of just a flat space. But, you know, I don't know. It seems risky. Proceed with caution. Because if you cut this down too low, let me get a little pointer. If you cut this down flat with this angle, right, let's say you go right in there, you just don't have a whole, you have like 3 millimeters of material at most right down here holding your battery strap. So proceed with caution is my best advice. So that is the Pavo20 Pro, that is. And I do prefer this one over the older version. And I think this one's going to remain available. And I kind of started the video with saying there might be reasons that you want this one. One of the reasons I can think of that you might want the previous iteration or the true 20 is does run what I would say is a standard size prop. It's going to be physically a little bit smaller. So if you're flying it inside, you'll have slightly more margin for error because of its physical size. It's going to weigh a little less. So if you are flying it inside, it should do less damage, if either would do damage inside flying, depending upon how you're flying them. And then the iteration with the mount, I suspect with all the new kits, you would get this mount, but they might have to sell through on their older versions before they start getting the mounts on these older version quads. So that might be something that you could be disappointed. And it could be a price drop. That's something else I just don't know at this time. Would they launch this and then this price drop? You know, if you can save some money, you know, that'd be a reason to potentially want it as well. But I do prefer this, especially for my preferred flight style. While I do think this one still flies very well, it just doesn't fly quite as well as this. I like tri-bladed props too. That's a bias I should make clear. I like the grip and the turn because of the way I fly of tri-bladed props. So I kind of prefer how this one flies as well. And I thought they did a really nice job with the PID tune. Even when I wasn't doing things very well, like when I would come in kind of flat, every once in a while there was one chimney dive that kind of came in and I had to kind of come in flat because the chimney isn't really all that tall, so you can kind of glide away and it'd be very fun. So I like to come in and get close to the ground and then kind of flatten out and jam the throttle. And it didn't do heavy oscillations. And that's one of the things that I noted was the PID tune, especially prop wash handling in that particular kind of thing. It really did a nice job. That's something that Betafpv, I think, has been really turning up on. The Air 65. I think most people approve of the PID tune on the Air 65 as well. Some people might not. Some people might be tweaking it to their specialized likings. But I think, generally speaking, in the last 2 quad releases from Betafpv, it seems to me that their PID tunes have improved. So they're either taking more time, or they've got someone else doing it, or a team of someone else is doing it, or they found out a different method. Something changed there because their PID tunes have gotten better. If you are interested in the Pavo20 Pro, I will have a link down in the video description. Initially, it's only going to launch from Betafpv. I'm sure other shops will come around, and so when other shops are carrying this, I'll add links to their shops as well. If your shop is carrying this, just message me, Facebook, email, whatnot, and I'll add your shop too. Doesn't matter if there's an affiliate program or not. You should buy products from where you want to get your product from. Hopefully you have a shop close to you, one that you support and one that you like to support. But if not, Betafpv has got these available. Well, at least should be soon. As the moment I record, it's not available, but it should be about the time this video is released. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know about the Betafpv Pavo20 Pro. Just rolls off my. Please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time. And thanks for watching.